Just making sure. Can anybody come off mute?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm still trying to figure out Google meetings, Zoom meetings rather.
Dale, didn't you just have the whole last year like we did with COVID doing Zoom every day?
I've been doing, well, we do Teams internally, and so that's its own set of beasts, and I fought with that a little bit, but then yeah, I do a fair share of Zoom meetings, but they're one-on-ones and trying to figure out when I'm the host and doing it through the anyway. I'm Low Code Cafe, a lot of webinar work. I start getting very familiar with that, but meetings I still fight with a little bit. Hello, Craig.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I'm just gonna, oh, there we go. Giving people a couple of minutes to connect. That's one of the nice things about the webinars thing. We can kind of give people a couple of seconds to connect before we get started. This is we just dive right in. Okay, Albert, good morning. So I'm going to run through my my introduction stuff, and then we'll excuse me, my welcome stuff, and then we'll talk about introductions and get into whatever it is for today. So Low Code Campfire number 6, and it is a community gathering. Glad that you're here. Whatever you've got going on, we'll talk about, and we record these sessions. The past editions are out there on the YouTube channel. We have the handy QR code in case you just want to subscribe right now. Just for fun, I was looking out at it a minute ago, and for the Low Code Campfire content, we get someplace between 42 and 13 replays of the thing. Not that people sit and listen to us for the whole hour, but we do have those with keywords in them, timing, so that you can jump to the section. So apparently we're getting some replays and people are getting some value out of them. Our agenda is the same. We're going to do some introductions, and then it's pretty wide open. So when you're ready, jump in, engage. The main way, jump in. Just let's talk. It's a meeting, so let's talk. Guidelines: if you got stuff going on in the background, hit mute. Be nice. The main rule is participate, because otherwise I start singing, and nobody wants that. And questions.
I'd love to hear you sing.
Yeah. You haven't heard it yet. I mean, I have one note, and it's a low one, so I can do the papa mau mau. But
all right,
the rest of them are a problem. Somebody do me a favor, if you would, take a picture of this. Let's see if this actually works. But this is the questions and topics. This is a quick form on Google, and so if somebody would do at least tell a joke or say hi or something and let me know that that's working. And while we're doing that, let's move on into introductions. Say hi and what's going on with you, and why you're here, what you hope to get out of it. Mark, you're a frequent flyer. Would you start us off?
Sure, Mark Gilsing. I'm an integrator, put stuff together, use Plant an App for several project websites of my own. And I have a short list of questions if no one else speaks up, but I think they're less important than most, so I'll wait. Happy to see other people here.
Yeah, we'll get to a spot where we'll ask about questions. So and you say that every time, but your questions tend to be very valuable. So thanks for bringing them. If it gets to be crickets, that's a problem. So I'd rather have something to talk about. David, hello. You're next on my list.
I'm next. All right. I'm David Osborne. I'm an independent software developer. I left the corporate world about 15 years ago and started doing the thing independently. So in the past, up until a year ago, I used to just build software for people from scratch. And then when the pandemic hit, a couple of my regular clients had to cut back business, and I fell into a client that was using Plantain app. And so I've been using that for a year. And so I decided to jump on, because when you work in isolation, you don't necessarily pick up all the different things. So I've done, the basic stuff, and I've done things like write my own actions and put those in there when there's things that I want it to do that it doesn't do. And so I thought I'd jump on today and maybe just pick up some keywords and terminology and features that people are talking about that maybe I haven't even touched on yet.
So you are a convert. Well, and in full disclosure, David and I worked together many years ago for a previous IT firm, and he and I have worked closely together over the years. So glad to have you join. Glad to have you be part of the Plantain app family. Hello, Craig.
Good morning, everybody. Craig Anderson, just like David, but just a little bit longer. It's funny, I started my own thing a month before the pandemic hit, so that was perfect timing. But I'm in the mortgage business, so they were very busy last year, so it was good. Doing customizations for clients through the Plantain app. I'm using both the legacy and the new. And just trying to learn the new, but I love this where we can bounce questions off of each other and get some good ideas, because to David's point, I'm by myself in my garage apartment, and it's just me, so having a group that I can bounce questions off of is fantastic.
Great. Albert, you want to say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Albert Frosto. I've actually not yet converted over to Plantain app. I've been just using the legacy, the DNN Sharp modules. At this time, we just have a lot of clients that just use the basics, the action form. And so I'm just kind of here learning more about Plantain app and taking the Low Code Academy course that's, not available to everybody, but I've been testing it out and learning a lot more about Plantain app. And so hopefully to move in that direction in the near future.
Good deal.
Yeah.
We get into it. I'd love to hear anything you have to say about your experience with Low Code Academy so far, but we'll drop into that in the next section. Hello, Jim.
Yes. Yeah. And so far it's been going really well. And I've been submitting a few things that I've come across on it. Well, yesterday I thought I had come up with a bug, but it was something that I overlooked in the video, and I didn't. I checked a required something that was not supposed to be required, and when I tried to add a ticket, it gave me an error saying the I think it's the support agent was required. So
Yep.
I had to go back and uncheck that, and then everything was working fine. But
Just like everything else, you got to debug your stuff, right? So
yeah. So yeah, if anything, I'm finding is just a little bit of just minor grammar things, that I come across.
there's one or two sentences that may have been written by people with English as a second language, so that's really useful that you point those out.
Yeah.
And then there's the stuff that I write, which that's a problem too. But Jim, did you want to say hi this morning? You got a minute?
Good morning, everyone. Jim Anthony. I'm an independent consultant, and all my background came out of the corporate world, similar to Mark's with and David's, where I have corporate clients that I help, but then I'm also my own customer in that I own a retail store. So I've been working to implement Plantain app in the store for my staff, and trying to build the applications around my my store-bought software and POS software and stuff, and doing integrations to build the gaps that exist in that software. So try to help out wherever I can, and every time I drop in here, I learn something new. And since I'm also a single person, pretty much developer, then it's great to have people to bounce ideas off.
Absolutely. And we've seen some really good things over these last few weeks. So this has been real good. All right. Yeah, having your own business that I'm sure that drags you into areas and um, brings you. I mean, as you're trying, you know how it has to be, so that now you've got to
Right.
figure out how to make it go. Yeah.
No, I'm migrating some of the stuff I've built for the corporate world into a small business, and Planted App has let me do that without a lot of, a team of 12 developers. So, but then I also get the day-to-day operational headaches of a business where like, oh, my store manager's going off to college. Okay.
Well, great. Thanks for going through that. When we have new faces, it's useful to say who everybody is. So thanks for running through that. And now Campfire. This is the unscripted part. Who's got a challenge? Let's start with there. Somebody that's facing something that's difficult right now that the group might be able to help with.
I got one for you, Dale. This is Craig. I'm working on an SFTP protocol where base system right now does not support SFTP. It supports the FTPS, and I learned a lot about that. But I was able to, through another person, Dale, he reached out and gave me the code, and everything is working great if I run it through the PowerShell on the server directly. But if I go through the Plantain app, whether it is through the scheduler or whether it's through the new action now that's available in action form, I get a security error that I don't have enough permissions. And now it is, I haven't tested it yet. I just got it where you can change the app pool to local system, but it's not recommended. And this was from Plantain app security guys, that it's not recommended due to security reasons. Does anybody know how to run through one of the action form to run a PowerShell on a server or run a Windows event? And if I can pipe it into a Windows event, but I need to pass parameters. So that may be, and I don't know anything about PowerShell. I've been learning for the last week, kind of self-taught. So I was just wondering if anybody's played around with that and was able to execute PowerShell on the server directly.
So I have an application that prints barcode labels for my store on my server. And I write my parameters out to a SQL table. And then I have a page that calls and writes a event to the server Windows event log. And in the tasks and scheduling of the Windows server, I have it monitoring for that event, and that executes the PowerShell.
Ah, okay.
And so I don't have, all the actual work is being done by the PowerShell script on the server. All my page is trying to do is trigger it. And that has been working very reliably for me.
When you say page, is that just a regular, does any action form, action written, anything like that, or you just have a completely separate page and it's written in C# or whatever?
I have right now it's a completely separate page written in C# because I've never had Plantain app on that server, and just recently I installed it because I'm actually going to do like the technique, and was going to make it more of a formal API call to be able to pass parameters and stuff to it. So.
Okay, gotcha. I'll try that out. Thank you.
So Jim, did you do that specifically to deal with the security, or that's just one of the benefits?
The security, because my site is not hosted in my store. It's hosted out at a public host, but my label printer and document printers are all internal. I had a printing problem where I needed to print documents locally and be able to guide things to a particular printer. And in my case, on this particular application, I call the local name of my domain for that, the internal server if you're outside my store, it doesn't resolve to anything. So it lets the server, you can't hack it and get in and start printing 27 pages or 27,000 pages or whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Right.
So,
Is that any way, I'm going to ask, and you can say, the code for that particular page, a generic form of that, obviously. Is that something you're willing to share?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'll shoot you an email, or I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
I also have a PowerShell script that ties to goes out and reads the database and then comes back and generates the document. I mean, the actual work function is going to look weird, but
Perfect. Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be great. And of course, I just noticed I fat fingered so I'm sending you a new email.
okay.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Thanks, guys. Yep, I appreciate that.
Follow-up question. Could you restart an app pool with PowerShell? Anybody?
Ooh. I haven't tried.
I mean, I haven't tried it, but I would pretty much guarantee that you can do it. I mean, you can do basically anything in PowerShell, so I would think you should be able to hit the IIS service and restart an app pool.
That's been a goal of mine for quite a while, to be able to do that remotely more easily than logging into my control panel and navigating down to the right domain and all that. Thanks.
I have not touched PowerShell at any level.
I haven't either
not,
yet.
Yeah, I can't even spell it, and I'm using it.
Yeah, I know it's out there. There's some disk-full scripts that I had that somebody that used to work for me wrote, and I maintain them a little bit. But so I can see it. I just haven't ever tried to haven't had to go down that path. Great. What else we got going on?
So I have a question about using the Plantain app skins, the page builder skin. I know that 1.14 or 5.14 has the ability to override some skin features. Dale, have you seen that or played with that at all yet?
I've seen it. I haven't played with it yet.
Because I have a problem on internal in my store. I use Chrome Books, so my staff doesn't have full Windows PCs and things, and some of my pages don't work properly on those devices. They don't size the screen right. They run fine I'm running it on a Windows or a Mac, but I think it's got something to do with browser detection. And I can go and override the CSS and fix it, but I haven't seen where to override the CSS.
And I'm sorry, what devices are you using?
These are Google Chrome Bits, or Chrome Books. So
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about particular functionality issues with particular devices. So that's I mean, I know sometimes we see some things that happen between Firefox and Chrome, and there's some fights that go on with new features, but I hadn't heard that there were CSS issues with Chromebooks.
Well, I think it could be specific to our implementation, because these are older Chrome Bits and things, and that's why I was waiting to implement the 5.14 version, because I thought you could do the override, but I didn't find any documentation. I mean, I found the note that says this is, that you can do now override the page builder skin, but I haven't seen where to implement that.
Yep. So we'll load up a load up one of those while we're talking. Maybe we can explore that a little bit. It's going to take a minute for that to load. So, but my understanding, I mean, it's you're saying that you know exactly what CSS needs to go
Right.
on the page, and
It's a margins. It's a margin when it, you know, detects this. I just want to implement it right rather than have to go implement it on every page and add a little chunk on every page.
so that's I think the one that's coming in through Page Builder, and let me make sure I'm on the right version here. I think the one coming in through Page Builder is only going to be for Page Builder. Is that you're definitely using Page Builder?
It's only Page Builder, the Page Builder skin that seems to have the problem.
And then it's happening. But the thing with the Page Builder skin is, yeah, I'm on 114. The thing with that is going to be that it's, I mean, it's page by page, not for Page Builder overall. Is that, if you want Page Builder overall, then it would go in through custom CSS. Are you familiar with that one?
No, not in that. I mean, like I've done things to the portal CSS and but never.
Right. So, well, that's the portal CSS. It's the way to access it through the interface. But you can, so if there was something particularly targeting that, you could do it there. But that's going to be for, you know, that's going to be every page is going to get it. And then let's see if we can find the new Page Builder.
And I think every page, I would want to implement it on every page.
Oh, well, you want to do it custom on every page?
Well, I don't want to have to go touch every page to do it. That's why I was looking for wherever the place is that in the new skin, the updated skin where we can go override.
Yeah. So I think, okay, we got Portal CSS and Page CSS. So Portal CSS brings up that same one that I was looking at a minute ago. So that would be everywhere on every skin. And then Page CSS, this is going to be particular to, so you'd have to do it for each page. So if there's something custom that needs to go on a particular page, that's what this is intended for. So it would not cover every Page Builder. And then the themes within Page Builder is just a theme. I think you were, I touched on some of this with Low Code Cafe this week about where the files are and where you could find the Page Builder skin, but you could, and I'd be happy to show you again, but you can look at that video section. But you can make a modification to Page Builder if it's giving you trouble, and that would be the kind of thing that if you do that and it doesn't, if you want to share that back with us, if it doesn't negatively impact the other pages, we'd be happy to incorporate it and improve what we have.
Okay.
We'll take that one.
So a related issue, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You made me think of the Page Builder theme. I think this is theme related, but I have a particular, I guess I would call it a gripe with the, if I go into to develop a workflow and my page happens to be in edit page mode, the little pencil, the bottom left corner, oftentimes things are off the screen that I really need, like the save button. And the inputs and the procedure choice options, and sometimes I've had to lose my work in the workflow area to get out. You know, if I hit the little pencil to close it, then I lose my work. So yeah, so I guess it's just a gripe. I have to remember to get out of page edit mode before going into workflows. Anybody else experience this?
So I haven't with workflows particularly, but I have seen there are some quirks, and so I'll bring that up as I'll bring that up as a topic with the crew, see what we can get done. For me, it's if you're in edit mode, and for example, I'll go into tokens, that there's some buttons right here that are missing, and so you have to undo your choice and get rid of that, and now we can filter by name. So there's just that the way that and this is core.NET Nuke functionality, the insertion of this bar at the bottom, and not all. I suspect we could make some CSS changes that would that our forms would respond better to, and but you know, it's pushing up here, and let's go into workflows and see
It's pushing up. That's what's going on with workflows too. And I've learned to hit the tab key. That will actually often get me up into there. That wasn't intuitive, but it does.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know if I close this down. Yeah, well, in this case, yeah, it did back up. We did lose the work. So I'll bring that up with the dev team and make sure we'll just point them to this segment of the discussion and ask them to take a look at it.
And the things going off the screen is the problem that I'm seeing on my Chrome devices too. You know, with a grid, you know, in a grid that the labels off to the left, or a form, the labels off the left are going off the screen. So
and that also is page builder, correct?
Yeah.
So again, if you happen to discover, Jim, the CSS that resolves that just makes it one step closer to getting fixed. So if you do the work for us, we'll put it in the product. No, I don't mean to say that. The easier you make it,
it's all for sharing. That's great. That's fine.
Mark brought up another one here recently that talking about one of our actions, the email action, making horrible HTML, and it's just kind of one of the characteristics of our what you see is what you get editors, but it is an annoyance when you bump into it, and then things like this, and so. I know I have a tendency to, you know, once you've hit one of these bad spots, you know to go around it, but then that leaves it behind for every new user to discover. So knocking them out. Complaining is good, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
You know, Dale, that's exactly how I look at it. You do your own workarounds, and you learn to do that independently, but every once in a while I think, well, I could influence this forever, but if I just say something. Yeah.
And I was trying to see that comes out very nice and clean, but and if we start pasting stuff in here, we start getting all this span style crap, and trying to find a better way to and I know that that's a challenge, right? These editors, they're incorporating the commonly used tools. I don't know which particular one this one is. It's nice because it has some capabilities to drop fields in there and things like that. But when it does that, it just makes you crazy. And you know, sometimes I know I found some nice online editors that if I'm editing HTML, I'll do it outside and then paste it back in. So yeah, just again, we take it in the spirit that it's offered.
Yeah, Dale, I was going to mention, yeah, I use an outside editor as well, html5-editor.net, and do everything in there. And 95% of the time it sticks. So don't even use that header inside for the emails.
Yep, absolutely. Cool, new topic. What do we got? We can come off of of gripes for a minute. Anybody working on anything interesting? David, I know you are.
Yeah, besides the SFTP that I'm working on to add a functionality in there, that's the one thing I've been focused on.
You know, the stuff I work on is interesting to me. I'm not sure if it's interesting to other people. I was hoping to get you to sing. I thought if we would all be quiet for a little bit, you would start singing. And I want to see that.
In all honesty, I have a backup topic to go to with that.
I mean, I don't know. The most interesting thing that I think I've worked on is I've actually jumped in, you know, it's being a software developer in nature. So I like, you know, my core, I like being down by the bits and writing stuff from scratch sometimes. And I have written some of my own custom actions that I've jumped in, and I'm very impressed how the PlanTNet team has structured that stuff. It's exactly how I would have built it for creating your own actions. So that's immediately where my brain went to when someone was talking about restarting an app pool or SFTP. Is I was like, oh, I'd just write my own action for that and plug it in. And as long as you know C# or VB, it's pretty slick. The documentation might not be great, but
yeah, the last action video that I saw was 10 years old from Bogdan. So yeah, the action thing, I'd love to do that, but to your point, there's just not a lot of, you have to figure it out. And if you're not a deep coder like yourself, somebody like myself who's pretend, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah, it is. And I had to jump into, kind of look to see how theirs worked. And it's crossed my mind. I was like, I wonder if I can make some money putting out some custom action bundles to sell or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty flexible stuff.
I'll send you some requirement documents. You can send me an SOW.
You just on the documentation side, I know it's not formal documentation, but there were some presentations made by Robert, who leads our development team, that made it into some older low-code cafes, and so there is some stuff to look at in that regard. There, I would like to see more formal documentation in that area as well, but there are some resources. And then, David, so just for fun, the places where you saw that we needed an action, what kinds of that we don't have, what kinds of did you have? Maybe
the term wouldn't be you needed an action. Maybe the term would be I wanted something different, maybe based on how I worked. I immediately went in and wrote an if-else action because I got tired of doing, just from my preference, right? You can put the condition up there and you could embed stuff into an action list or something like that. There's other ways of doing it, but coming from a programming world, I wanted an if-else area where I could drop something into an if-X section and an else statement. And so I did build that right away. The other stuff was more like web calls and things like that. So if I needed to call a web service and I knew I was going to be doing it a lot, and I wanted to reuse that, like if I was always getting a certain object from a web service, but with a different ID, I just created an action that did that where I could plug in an ID property or populate that with a token, and it would return my result, just to make it cleaner, maybe is the word. More organized. Organized is probably the word I'm going for, just from a mental structure. Sometimes you can get into a workflow or an automation, and it gets a little unruly depending on how you organize it. So that's one way I organize, is if I'm doing something over and over and over again, I piece it into its own action.
Sure.
Then you also get the complexity of troubleshooting your own action too. So that adds a bit more complexity to it.
Yep. So on your if else, this is like an execute actions stack that has a true path and a false path, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. PlanTNet developers have it set up pretty easily with add properties to your class of an action list, I think it's called. You can I'd create an action list that was for the if path or if branch, and an action path for the else branch. And then there's a conditional property on there, and the typical error handling or on error section of action lists too. And then based on the condition, it goes and executes whatever action path it is. I mean, it plugs right into everything just like a standard one would.
I assume those would nest very easily as well. Yeah. Cool.
Yep, they've worked well, at least in the limited use cases that I've done them for.
Being a non-programmer, again, I'm thinking that workflows for those people like myself might actually be able to do that kind of stuff too, because you could create sub workflows that would say, if go this way, then go that way, that kind of thing. Does that sound right?
Yeah, definitely. That's another way to encapsulate logic. I would think I've done that as well too.
Bogdan has been talking about adding, and Reza as well, this execute workflow as a token, which would greatly simplify some of these conditionals. If you can pass in execute a workflow to come to a decision, true, false, and now I know some of my conditionals get very, very complex and harder to read. Whereas if you just had a run this workflow and tell me, do I go in or is it true or false? It'll help simplify some of that stuff. So again, resulting in cleaner code. So I'm going to dive down into date time picker ranges. This is just fun, and I hope I haven't timed out here. We'll see in a second. Not too bad. Okay. Daytime picker, we added the ability to do ranges, and so in a normal date time picker, you can pick a date, but in this, you can, for example, pick a range. You see this all the time in like a travel site or a reservation kind of a site. And without too much code, and I'm actually going to hit the login here while this is, we're going to need to be logged in. No, I'm in. All right. So picking a range, and we get, you can highly format this to show what you've picked. So I've modified this to show the day and the month and the year kind of spelled out. Even so, you go from a graphical to to more of a visual or a spelled out version. And as you're making these changes, these different fields that I've got connected to it, these could be like hidden fields that extract the dates so that you can consume them in however you want. And then in my case, the submit button just displays the value of these different fields. So the travel dates field has the dates, both dates with a 2 between them. Travel date start returns it as a ISO date, so start and end here. And then if you want to just extract the date, I've got text fields that have just the date, and then these text fields, I was playing around trying to figure out what I could get it to do, but being able to explicitly grab the ISO. This is a text field that has the ISO. This is a date time that's returning the ISO. But either way, the idea, and I'm heading towards a low-code cafe, a low-code feature-focused video in this, trying to make it very easy to use these features. But the idea is that you would be able to select a date range and then store it in an entity, and then when the entity comes back, you're bringing that up, being able to retrieve the start date and the end date and push it back into a picker so that it comes up pre-selected like that with a range. Has anybody played with ranges yet?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet.
Just behind the scenes, all the work in this one is being done with in this single travel dates date time picker. And the changes, first of all, I did a client format that just takes advantage of the standard date time string. So we're getting the day of the week and the month name and the day. But to put it into range mode, it's a very simple override where we just say mode range in this new flat picker options override, and that gets the screen to change from this format where you can only pick a day to this format where you can pick a range. Whoops, too far. And then in terms of the actions, and this is the reason that it's going to need to be a low-code feature focus, and with there's some JavaScript behind this, that this is far more complex than what I'll end up presenting, but we have to be able to access the travel dates in order to get stuff off of it. And so, and in my case, I'm sending to the console all the different varieties of the ways that you can get the dates, because there are a variety of them. And in my comments, I have what those look like. So there's this to a date string that has it's spelled out, but there's ISO, what's the locale date string, what's the locale time string. So getting all these out so we can see exactly what content we can get out of it. And then this is the part where it pushes it into the other fields. So for example, setting the start date to the selected date as an ISO string. Anyway, it's not real complex stuff, but a little bit of JavaScript is going to be required for people who use that, because at this point, we're not anticipating just natively exposing range. Any interest in that one? Or just that's curiosity?
I haven't had a need yet for the range. I'm not saying I won't get that need tomorrow, but I do love that, because you're right, I use it all the time when I'm booking flights and hotels and stuff, and it's very easy just to click on and drag or click start and end, and it works. Yeah, and that's one thing that was challenging for me is learning through that. And I do a lot of manipulation through SQL to get the date that I want. Like your travel start date there, the text field, I'm curious how you got that in the text field. I do it by SQL. I don't know if that's how you did it or not.
No, this one was actually, you mean, so you had the ISO, and you're saying, for example,
yeah,
when you flip it.
Yeah, with the Plantain app, you either get, it's funny, I haven't played with them yet, so I don't really know, you get a local date time. I don't know what that means. Is it local where the server is? Is it local where the user is? And then just the regular date time one as well. So I'm playing through the different ones, but most of them seem to be in Zulu or the ISO format, and I have to convert it to Eastern or Central Time.
Yep. So even this JavaScript that I was looking at here a second ago will work with even this kind of a date time string. I mean, it doesn't have to be a range; it can be the normal.
Right.
And so, because for
how did you get the date in the text box, the middle, right, that one right there?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah,
so travel date. That's travel date start text, and if we look at travel date start text, I am using this selected date to locale string.
So that is part of that job. Okay, got it.
Yep. And so I will. I'll do a low-code feature.
Okay, fair enough.
This cleaned up JavaScript will be in there, but
perfect.
I'd be happy to shoot it to you. Tell you what, I'll post this as it is to the end of this Campfire, just so that you can, so it's not a mystery. So that anyone can work through it. But yep.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dale, I'll be looking forward to that too.
Cool. Yep, this is an area that I've struggled with a little bit. I know we're still trying to figure it out, what the best way to handle date time strings, and from a global perspective, having everything be in ISO/Zulu is great. But there's sometimes where you just want to pick a date, right? So, or a time, and if your site is not an international site, maybe it's a little overkill to have that kind of capability. So trying to figure out what the best way to do some of that is. Just as an aside, I think this will also play into where we're going with the listing module having the calendar view. So if you pick a range, then you'll be able to display a range. Also, there's some capability here that's, I probably mentioned it in the Low Code Cafe, but there's capability here to provide dates, to block out dates off the calendar. And so if you were doing some kind of a travel site, or that you know, for example, a reservation at a VRBO kind of thing. So you've got a single resource and it's booked on a certain day or set of days. There's a way to pass in this same options override. You can pass in all the dates that you're excluding. So you could have a token that returns all the dates that the resource is already booked, and then push them into the put a token here into this that would eliminate the dates off the list. So it's a lot of capability there. I think it opens us up for other uses.
Gail, do you know, do those options just control the ticker behind, or does it help you with the actual data entry, the text box field also? That the application might, you know, customers/employees ask for is they don't like having to type the full date with a 4-year, you know, date. They just want to type in, you know, June 17th and have it default into, you know, to the current year and things like that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. That's something I'm going to play with, because, for example, right now the datetime picker is all interactive, right? You can't type a date here. As far as I don't know, maybe I don't want to lie. No, I can't like override this date here, but I believe that without too much work, we could have a text field like this that you could type 6/23 and actually have it select that date into the calendar date.
Right.
So
that's the functionality that I've been asked for, because our accounting system does it that way and stuff like that.
So that would let people pick it either way,
Right.
type it or push it. And I think, I mean, I'll take a look at it after we get done here, but I think that's probably just a 10-minute thing on the JavaScript we already have going. You would just go to the on change. So like travel dates start text is where we would be typing it. And so in the on change click expression, we could take that date and push it into the calendar using that same code that we were just looking at. And I think it would set that default, no problem. So I'll look for that.
Dale, I had a question. Can you also, I have a client, they use like the action form to make reservations for their restaurant. Can you block out, you know, you mentioned dates, but can you also block out times?
Well, the answer is I think so, but I don't, the time, let's take a look. So just for, these options all are linked here. We're incorporating the flat picker tool into our product. So we would take a look at the flat picker options. And so disabling dates is a topic in here, but I'm not seeing disabling times. Let's scroll this here. At this point, I'm just not seeing it real quickly.
Okay,
but
yeah, I just thought I'd ask and see if they.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would think in something like that, another possibility would be if your times were listed in the drop down, then you could control what was in the drop down. So you
Yeah,
might
that's what I'm doing right now. I just have a separate field that just has the drop downs at the specific times. Yeah.
Yep. So only.
I did notice, Dale, when you were scrolling there was a disable by function. And so someone could look at that function. If that function's passing in the time as well, you may be able to disable those times based on that function that's going through. That's just a guess based on what I
Yep.
saw when you're scrolling.
Yep. Good point.
I do see a time picker on the left column there. If you go up, yeah, I don't know if there's any specifics.
Just the way that it well, so we have some min time, max time. So you can certainly start and stop at a particular time.
I've been playing around with Calendly, exposing, iframing that in and using the APIs to update. And I'm still playing around with that right now just because this wasn't out yet. And that seems to be working so far. But then again, you have to manage your times, unfortunately, in two places.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of power that's been revealed there. I'm not sure that, that I like the approach of us opening up some of this. I mean, we're revealing specifically minimum date and maximum date and and some of this is all being inserted through the options as well, but you can add more options through this mechanism. I kind of like that. It says that people that want to go deeper can go deeper, but people who just want to use the core functionality can do it pretty straightforward. Let's see. I did not look. Let's see. I did get at least one low-code Campfire question, so that is in fact working. So thanks for doing that. If we have more topics, if you have questions or topics, and you submit them through the week, just something that you're thinking about as you go, do that, and I'll put them on a slide so we can jump into them. We're at 5 minutes, so I mean, I'm not in a rush, but anything that somebody wants to get into that we didn't get to.
I have a parting question, unless there's time for a different parting question. I have noticed there seems to be a difference between the list of users in Plant and App versus the list of users in DNN, the DNN way of going about it. Does someone have a better understanding of why there's a difference there? And some people I know show up in the DNN user list, but they don't show up in the Plant and App user list. And a related thing is, if I tried to make a new user one time and I went to Plant and App way, and there was no field for setting the password, so I couldn't really finish the job, which I thought was curious. Maybe I did something wrong. Anybody else struggle with that?
In the Low Code Academy, I think I noticed that too. When I created an account, it just sends an email so you can then have the person reset or create a password, basically. Yeah, but I couldn't be able to enter the password myself and just create an account. No.
Right, I noticed the exact same thing, and then again later when I tried to actually do it.
So then, Mark, if you're saying if you do it through Legacy or through DNN and not through Plant and App, they don't sync up.
Well, I've noticed. Well, if my application in Plant and App, if it creates a user, that user isn't necessarily represented over in DNN.
Got it.
I think that's the way it went for me.
I haven't played around with users yet, just building the application. So I'll have to look at that because that's my next step.
So I don't have a great explanation about why they show up in one and not the other. I know that that's true, and I haven't happened to dig down into that one yet. I suspect that that they have to exist in the .NET Nuke user list in order for them to log in, because that's going to be the one. .NET Nuke is controlling security on the way in. but what makes them show up in the Plantain app list is it might be specific roles or something like that, and I don't know that. So I'm going to take that as my homework for next week.
What version of Plantain app are you using, Mark?
0.14. That's
Oh.
the second latest. I didn't do the latest one yet.
Okay, because there was something I had like that I worked with Reza on version 12 before the more global user list was made available, where our user role, the all users role was there. I was seeing that things didn't show up, and Reza gave me a script to fix it, but I haven't seen that problem since we started enabling the all user role as a default role when people register via DNN and put them in that role.
Put them in there. Okay.
But I would like to understand it, because especially if, I mean, the two cases that you're talking about, one, if we're creating users dynamically, they need to be created so that they are Plantain app compatible. And then second of all, there is a use case for, I'm going to create the user and assign them a password.
Oh yeah.
And maybe you don't have a real email address. Maybe this is, I don't know, maybe it doesn't need to be through the Plantain app interface. Maybe having both is okay, but it, I know that overall our goal is to move people more and more to provide that functionality within Plantain app and minimize how much people have to use Persona Bar, .NET Nuke to get things done. And that's part of what you're seeing. For example, we were looking earlier at CSS through Page Builder. We're providing the things that you need without having to learn the .NET Nuke product. So, but I'll take that as homework. I'll report back.
Well, thanks, Dale.
Absolutely.
I think it was Craig that mentioned an HTML5 tool that he was using for doing layout. What was that name?
It was HTML5-editor.net.
You know, one of the simple struggles to a UI designer, and I get stumbled with it all the time, is because I'm a back-end guy, is building things like a report. You know, like I'd like to take a Word document that I can lay out and design and bring data into it. But I struggle through that every time I have to do one. And I don't know if that's the type of editor that would allow me to do something like that easier.
Yeah, you definitely still have to play with it, unfortunately, and doing a lot of tables and things there for the emails. But I, on the right-hand side, just wipe all of that out and start from scratch. And it gets me a good 60 to 70% on the right-hand side. Then on the left-hand side where the code is, I do have to massage it a little bit. And then it's just a copy and paste in there. And like I said, 90% of the time it's great. And sometimes there are little things here and there that I just need to fix. But this is for me, this was the best one so far.
These tools are kind of cool too. I haven't used this particular one, but I've seen it before where, you can expand or contract. Let's see, this one I was expecting to be able to hit it, but you see how it compressed the result when we're done. I'm sure there's an no, that's not it. But I'll probably bring my favorite next time to talk about too. This.
Oh, perfect.
There's being able to have it nicely formatted so while you're working on it, and then compress it down when you're done so that it takes up less room.
I brought in, and I didn't, after the low code feature focus you did on Word, converting Word to an email, I done that and brought it in. But I have some pretty fancy like publisher documents and stuff like that we use as forms in our store that I would like to generate from the website.
Yeah.
I have not invested that time yet, because every time I try, I just end up sort of with yucky HTML. That's a technical term, yucky. So.
Okay, we have Oh, that's a lie. That's not true. It's not bogged down. Next week, you're still stuck with me. We're on to happy low coding. We've done our hour. I appreciate all the participation. This is a good group, and I appreciate the sharing back and forth. So look forward to talking to you guys next week. And if you've got specific topics, let me know. All
Will
right.
do. Thank you, Dale.
Thanks, Dale.
everyone.
Have a good
Sounds
weekend,
Thanks,
everybody.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.